Hello, I'm Pete O'Farrell.
And I'm Jessica Kurgo. This is your May 2022 installment of Walpole News Today. The Walpole Health Department has addressed confusion regarding town-wide trash and recycling collection after a recent mailer was sent out by the town's waste management company, Boston Carting Services, LLC. At a Board of Health meeting in early May, Public Health Director Melissa Ranieri clarified that there has been no change to the town's waste collection contract and that residents are welcome to continue placing their trash and recycling as normal.
In years past, we've always discouraged residents from using toters because it was an individual on the truck picking up the barrel, dumping it in. So it was our instruction to say, you can have those, but you have to be mindful that someone cannot pick that up on their own. So what they're going to do is they're going to reach in, grab what they can. Potentially there could be trash left behind. So people needed to know that. So now this little flyer is to say, now we have the means to do this. It's not a requirement. One that is looking to continue with just putting their trash bag out or putting their regular, traditional trash barrel out can continue to do so. If you see like the ways to put it out and the ways not to put it out, like people normally put their wheels towards the street and it's actually supposed to be the opposite way because the truck picks it up in that form. And then obviously you don't want to put the bins too close to one another. You want to be mindful of overhead wires so the trash truck doesn't take down the wires. We have a 5-year contract that we are entering in with Boston Carting come July 1st. So I know there's some skepticism. A lot of people are thinking, well, eventually we're going to switch to this automated system with totes being a requirement. That's not the case. The contract that we're entering in July 1st is a contract that does not talk about automated or toters.
The health department continues to hold COVID-19 vaccination clinics at the Old Town Hall on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. The registration link for the weekly clinics can be found on the town's website.
The Westwood Walpole Dedham League of Women Voters held their annual Candidates Night on Wednesday, May 25th at the Walpole Library. Candidates for the Board of Assessors, the Board of Sewer and Water Commissioners, the Select Board, and the School Committee, among others, made their case to voters, responding to questions submitted by Walpole residents. 3 candidates, Jeffrey Fisher, William Hamilton, and James Taylor, are running for 1 seat on the Board of Sewer and Water Commissioners. 3 candidates, including incumbent Benjamin Barrett, as well as Allison Hamilton and William O'Connell, are running for 2 seats on the Select Board. 6 candidates, incumbents Mark Green, Kari Denizio, and Nancy Gallivan, as well as Caitlin Benoit, Mary Ellen Jordan Mercier, and Adrian Rogers, are all running for 3 seats on the school committee. More information on the upcoming June 4th town election can be found through Future of Walpole or on the town's website.
Walpole Chief of Police Richard Kelleher noted a substantial increase in the theft of catalytic converters during his quarterly report to the Select Board meeting. Here's more from his statement.
One thing we've been seeing a lot of recently is catalytic converter thefts. In fact, we actually had 4 of them today during the daytime, so it's kind of a timely topic. We've seen an incredible increase in thefts. There was one at the train station yesterday and one actually behind the building today, and one also at Blessed Sacrament. So we're going to work those cases now. And the idea behind those is there's precious metals that are contained in those devices as part of the vehicle, and they've been cut out in a clandestine way. Usually we see them at night. We're seeing a trend during the day now, so we're going to begin to investigate that as this information is just coming in now. So concerning, to say the least, so I guess I would implore the public, if you were to see anything that was suspicious or anything that looked out of place, to please go ahead and notify us, even if you think it might be nothing.
The report also covered the department's response to ongoing quality of life issues caused by excessive traffic during stadium events. The topic is of particular concern to the board since the Foxborough Planning Board approved the Kraft Group's plan to expand Gillette Stadium parking lots bordering residential properties in Walpole.
As you know, with the stadium event this past weekend, we had a tremendous amount of traffic in that area. It was traffic that we hadn't seen before, and as long as I've been here. In our communications with the barracks commander at the State Police, as well as some of our counterparts in Foxborough, it appeared as though it was 72,000 people going to the same place on a 90-degree day, and a lot of them were not from this area. We saw a tremendous amount of plates from Connecticut, Rhode Island, New York, Maine, and they really didn't know where they were going. And I think it led to a tremendous amount of congestion when the lots opened at 3 p.m. And we managed it. We were staffed as we normally were, and unfortunately, some folks ended up in neighborhoods parking, and that's just stuff that we can't accept. I had reached out to the director over at of security details over at the stadium, and explained to him our situation. He was more than willing to give us two additional officers for future concert events, which will help mitigate some of the issues with people in neighborhoods. What I wanted to do is place an officer at Pine Street at Walpole Park South to eliminate people coming down South Street into Clinton Ave, where we had a number of complaints of people exiting vehicles while stopped in traffic and just really not being good neighbors. And then we also wanted to add another officer to patrol neighborhoods south of Shufelt Road. We had some parking on Eldor.
I know that the craft group has made commitments, and I think we need to hold their feet to the fire on that.
Absolutely.
And I don't think it should be about waiting until the lots are closer to completion, because who knows what that's going to mean. Right. They have a problem down there today. So I think it's going to be really important to make sure that we get those detail officers in place.
Many agree that the food pantry in Walpole provides a vital service to our community. There is, however, plenty of disagreement regarding where the pantry should be located. At their May 24th meeting, the Select Board continued a discussion with Pantry Director Bill Willith regarding his effort to secure a more functional location for the pantry's growing needs. Though Willith is partial to a location at 144 School Street, some board members feel that alternative potential locations, like Johnson Middle School, should be reconsidered. Members of the public also weighed in with their concerns. Here's more.
Pre-pandemic, we were doing 40,000 pounds of food per month. Okay. At the height of the pandemic, we were doing over 80,000 pounds a month. It's come down. We came down to roughly 40,000 pounds a month again, but earlier this year, it had another spike. The finding of Legacy Engineering was it wasn't feasible to go to the Johnson Middle School.
To me, this is one of the greatest challenges that's facing our town, if not the greatest challenge. And the thing is, it's a silent challenge, right? There's 160 and probably more families that are food insecure in town. These are our friends and our neighbors, and they don't talk about it, right? They're not down the ball field or out on the sidewalk talking about how they can't put food on the table. It's a silent challenge. And so in order to meet that, we need to be creative and we need to come up with these solutions. And I think having a new facility, it seems like it's the right way to move forward, and we need to find the right spot for it. But it's a challenge that the Select Board, is incumbent upon us and the town and really all of us as a community to come together and find a solution. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are going to have to compromise to get to that solution. We're all not going to get what we want. But I'm confident that we can rise to the challenge there.
I'm not convinced Johnson Middle School is not an option. I'd like to really explore that and explore it hard. And I don't think, to my knowledge, I don't think anyone's committed that gym to anybody. I don't think we've decided what we're doing with Johnson Middle School yet. Heck, we haven't even started building the new building yet, and we're a couple years away. So I'm not convinced that's not an option. Obviously, you have explored this, and I respect that, but I would like to dig in on that a little bit further.
My question always was, how are you going to come up with the money? At the time, it was Greater Boston Food Bank would likely kick in maybe half that, but that's still a few $1 million you need to come up with. That was my concern.
We do not have the funding lined up. I thought it would be appropriate to first get the commitment from the town for the land.
The clients were mentioned previously, and I think we have to think about their feelings going to a central location like that, located right near the pool, a newly renovated playground, the library, and the ball field. There's not a lot of confidentiality on the part of the clients there.
It's a very small piece of property when you look at it. So from what Bill says, he wants a big area, and the privacy is another thing. But it's not the site. It just shouldn't even be considered.
The wetlands, the green space that we have, once it's gone, it's gone. It's gone. And I think we need to seriously consider the environmental impact that this is going to have on us in the short term and in the long term.
He's looking at the Greater Food Bank to provide a lot of the funding, but we haven't talked to them about that yet.
So right now, we are not considering that parcel of land. From my point of view, we're at the beginning of a long discussion with Bill about continuing to provide this service to the Walpole residents and people outside of Walpole too who need that. Again, if you would like to be involved in some of the discussions, if anybody here knows of parcels of land or buildings that may fit, please feel free to reach out to me or to Jim and give us some ideas.
At their May 17th meeting, the Select Board voted to reduce the Economic Development Commission from 9 full-time members to 7 and to reduce the Walpole Housing Partnership from 9 full-time members to 5. Here's more from the conversation that took place ahead of those votes.
It really makes sense to reduce these. This request is coming specifically from these two committees here. So I recommend favorable action on both of these requests.
I think it is important to have the right size committee. If it's too big, they have a hard time with a quorum, and then it becomes a pain in the neck for everybody, so.
At that same meeting, the board approved an all-alcohol beverage license and an entertainment license for the indoor golf facility Gough Walpole, which is set to open in September at 50 Providence Highway.
It's an indoor golf facility. We're going to have 9 simulators for patrons to come in, play indoor golf. We'll have 11 TVs, broadcasting different sports events, and a small bar with food and beverage.
I'll move to approve the request of Highland Equities GL LLC DBA Gough Walpole for an all-alcoholic beverage license with common Vittler at 50 Providence Highway, space E50, subject to the applicant obtaining inspections from building and health departments.
Veterans Services Committee Chair Rita Meinskow shared a moving statement from a woman about how Walpole's Hometown Hero banner program helped her and her family properly mourn the loss of her father.
When I was at the Council of Aging on Saturday for organizing the flag swap for the cemeteries, Karen Swan, who is the daughter of Lauren Sundberg, was there. She volunteered to do the flags as well. So Mr. Sundberg was one of the veterans that has the banner with the launch on Veterans Day. He passed away during COVID, and the family couldn't be there. They couldn't have a funeral, so there was never any of that closure. So because of the banner program, he was honored on the Common, and that was actually the family's closure for not being able to recognize him. She said, in 2020, COVID not only took my dad's life, but also took away his funeral. Our chance to say goodbye. Veterans Day 2021 was our opportunity to honor my dad and celebrate his life. He lived his entire life in Walpole and was proud of his town and his country. Your banner program honored him and was perfect in many ways. So thank you for allowing us to do this.
According to Chief Timothy Bailey, the fire department is still around $15,000 short of their fundraising goal for the annual Night Before the 4th fireworks event, which, as a reminder, will be held on July 2nd instead of July 3rd.
We are actively seeking donations for the Night Before the 4th. Important to note that it is on July 2nd this year, not on the 3rd. We had to move it because of scheduling with the fireworks company.
Walpole officials continue to deliberate potential uses for remaining financial aid provided through the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. Funding is available to the town through 2 pools: non-entitlement unit money, which is granted to communities with populations of 50,000 or fewer, and through Norfolk County on a per capita basis. At their May 26th meeting, the school committee voted to approve a list of requests for the ARPA funding, including support for the Walpole High School building study, HVAC installation at the high school, and a traffic signal at Elm Street School. Here's more from their conversation.
The select board is asking that each kind of committee and area of interest in the community come forward with what they believe are the core needs of their department and how they think this federal money could be utilized. So Walpole's allotment, once the second tranche is distributed, will be $2,637,000 and change. Very little of that money has been expended by the town. As far as the county side, Walpole has about $4.747 million in county ARPA funds available to them. So far, the town has received $2 million of those for new bathrooms at the South Walpole Community Athletic Complex, Winter Street sewer connection, June Street drainage, and bridge rehabilitation and design. A 5th project for the Walpole High School shop HVAC is pending. It's been approved. It just this funding will not be released until we are closer to the bidding for that project. That project is also receiving funds from the state's portion of ARPA, which was secured by our legislative delegation. So this leaves 2,592 available.
What we'd like to do is support the building study going on at Walpole High School. So there's an analysis, very serious analysis going on about what we can do with Walpole High School to improve the learning environment in that building. And our budget is not very large like it is for the middle school, where we had MSBA funding behind it. So we're working with a small budget. So the 1.7 million that we are advocating for from ARPA funding is a large portion of, or significant portion of that building project, and it will help us do a lot of the design work that needs to get done in that building. Second on our list is the HVAC installation. So at Walpole High School, if you're familiar with the building, when you go in the front door, to the right is the oldest portion of the building. It's 3 stories high, and it has probably about 100,000 square feet of square footage. And so the HVAC installation for each of those floors totaling would be $940,000. And what I mean by HVAC is, I don't like the term air conditioning. It's much more complex than that. It is really electrification, meaning replacing the boilers that burn fossil fuels and create a lot of CO2 and the carbon footprint of the building, which is, Maria had mentioned that as well. It's replacing those antiquated boilers with electrified, modern, mini-split types of systems. So not only does it provide HVAC, cooling of the classroom spaces, it also provides heat with no carbon generated locally. Number 3, we engaged last year in a capital funded item, a $10,000 item, to do a traffic study at the Elm Street School. If you've driven by the Elm Street School at arrival or dismissal, you've probably seen the line queuing out onto Route 27, significant backup on there. This was only one little facet of a multiple solution that was proposed by this vendor. We took the least expensive and most effective one that we thought would do the job that we need done, and that was a traffic signal.
The environmental implications of the HVAC project would help, what you write is meet the carbon reduction goals defined in the Green Communities Act, and so Walpole is now a green community, and so that is, I think that represents something significant in our attempts to kind of help the town meet the objectives that it has to meet. And in terms of the Elm Street traffic signal, that obviously has implications for traffic and public safety. So, you know, I appreciate that what we are putting forward, you know, is something that, you know, the impacts of these things can be felt really town-wide. They're not specific to people who are using the schools necessarily.
After the horrific attack in Uvalde, Texas, Walpole school principals are working to inform families of the safety protocols in place within the town's school buildings. Here's more from Superintendent Dr. Gough.
Just some of highlights that principals have communicated, and I've been communicating with families, that our doors are locked during the school day. Front entryways either visible from the office or can be viewed on security camera that's monitored by administrative assistants. There's protocols in place for visitors who come into our buildings. Our classrooms have telephone intercoms or both. Our school offices and other key locations have emergency alert buttons that can be used to summon help immediately. Security cameras are installed strategically throughout. Our staff are trained in emergency protocols and periodically practice evacuations and critical incident response drills with both students and staff. Our schools have crisis response teams that convene in the event of a school-based emergency. Each school has a threat safety assessment team that monitors the well-being of our students. And we work closely with the Walpole Police Department and our Walpole Fire Department in the development of review and implementation of emergency protocol procedures. And actually today, our central leadership team met with Chief Kellner to review safety protocols. Also, if anyone has specific questions, they need to, please feel free to contact your child's principal. They've been very helpful.
Later that meeting, committee members discussed the results of their school superintendent evaluation, one of the committee's primary responsibilities. They ultimately voted to approve the evaluation and to negotiate a potential contract extension with Dr. Gough.
We and you have a tremendous leader, and the thing that continued to come through in these evaluations was really an excitement for the future and an excitement for a gratitude for what you've done, but an excitement for the very distinct and clear vision you have of where we're going and what you can do in the future.
As somebody who has worked in other school districts, who's married to somebody who's worked in other school districts, who's part of a network of school committee members in other districts and hearing from them, like, it's all, I think, strengthened my appreciation for what we have in Dr. Gough.
Site preparation for construction of the combined middle school building project is set to begin this summer. Here's more from the recent school building committee meeting.
Big picture here is the project has always been preliminary laid out to have early release packages in order to begin work this summer and then be able to begin pieces of work throughout this year as the CM is on board in order to finish the project the summer of 2024 and start the school year of 2024 in the new building.
I would take a motion to approve the vendor invoice package from April of 2022.
So moved.
And I vote yes, it is a vote.
At their May 19th meeting, the Planning Board held a continued hearing for an applicant seeking a modification to a site plan approved in 2014 at 1429 Main Street. A number of abutting residents expressed concerns regarding overgrowth and a lack of transparency from the applicant, among other issues. Here's more.
The issue is there's now going to be two properties, not one property. When you had one property, you didn't have to worry about the buffer zone because there wasn't anything to buffer. But now if you have a new lot next to it and suddenly it's not going to be all trees anymore, you have to consider the views, the impact it'll have on the existing building.
All I know is that my client has given a full commitment to get rid of it as much as he can.
But nothing's happened?
Nothing.
I have to say that since we've been hearing this quite a while, it doesn't give us a lot of confidence that something's going to happen either soon or it's going to be sufficient.
We have a site plan that you're asking for modification, but Mr. Marini already modified it before it even got to us, correct? Didn't do all the plantings and made the building bigger, right?
Don't reward bad behavior. All right, he has thumbed his nose at this board umpteen million times on various different things. He has cut down the trees that has caused this problem after he was told not to do it. He was fined. He doesn't care.
The things that he was supposed to be done back in 2014 or whenever this project started still hasn't been done now. And so any of these promises that they're making, again, if it wasn't done before, he can't even get that part. And so it's just very frustrating and wasting all of our time.
Understood. I think it's in my client's best interest to work with the association to make sure that they're happy.
I think it's in your client's best interest to change the way he operates.
A public rate hearing for sewer and water is set to take place on June 13th at 6:30 in the Town Hall main meeting room. The Board of Sewer and Water Commissioners also voted in favor of a state audit of the town's indirect costs. Here's more from the board's May 23rd meeting.
If we don't know what we're getting for the ARPA funds, we can't in good conscience start setting rates. So we'll have to, between now and the rate hearing, we'll have to think about that.
The concern wasn't that we were building additional retained earnings. The concern was that we were asking to dip into it.
It's called rate stabilization.
I understand that. I'm saying it's not like that we said, oh, let's set the rate here because the retained earnings at 1 million and we wanted a 2, so we're going to jack up the rate so that we can get it. That was not the issue. Issue was you keep taking out for whatever good reason or bad, not that you're putting extra in.
Ratio, it provides a safety margin and allowance for capital projects and emergencies. And that, whether you call it retained earnings or whatever you want to call it, label you want to put on it, is amount of money that, as Patrick points out, stabilizes operations as well as stabilizes rates. And people are playing games with saying things out of balance, and the retained earnings for capital projects is too low, and we're not raising enough money from rates to fill the account to a certain level or a certain percentage. I move that we ask the state to do an audit of our indirect costs.
Okay, I'll second. And that's a freebie, doesn't cost.
That's a freebie.
Okay, sure.
The motion is second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstaining.
Okay, thank you.
Student artwork was on display at the Walpole Library during the month of May for the K-12 District Art Show. Walpole Media spoke with 2 art teachers at the May 11th opening night to hear more about their process for deciding which of their students' pieces to include and the show's significance to their art curriculum. Here's more.
It's been so special not only to see students at the art show, but also to meet family members in person finally. It's been a whirlwind, but I think ultimately seeing them smile and being with pride for their artwork, just seeing it on display, there's nothing more special.
But it's really nice to see the kids actually excited about showing their artwork off to their parents and their other family members and friends that come, and it's really cool when they see their friends here, especially the little kids. They'll see their friends here and they're like, come see my art, and then they like bring them over to see theirs. And I think it's really cool, just the whole process, because not only are they seeing like their age of work, but they're seeing like what they're going up to or what they get to look forward to in their other grades as they go.
It's very comprehensive, meaning I'm not just looking for innate talent. I want to see students who have pushed themselves, who've gone back and refined an artwork, who've really gone above and beyond with challenging what it means to be an artist. It's also very important that these students are respectful, they're team players. So it's a really comprehensive spectrum as what it means to be in the art show.
If a student worked really hard on a project, or if it was really special to them, or if they had like a really emotional attachment to a project, or if we worked really hard together, or they maybe overcame a struggle working on the project, I'll choose that one. Or if I know getting into the art show would be like a really great accomplishment for a student, I'll choose something that they worked really hard on. Sometimes it is a really like great achievement piece where I'm like, oh, this is an eye catcher that people are going to be like, wow, that looks really cool on the board. But it's not always like that, and I get sad when I think students think like, oh, it's only the best pieces that get in the art show, because that's not true at all. Sometimes it's like a personal journey of a piece that I know that student worked really hard on, and at the end we're really proud of. So for me, there's a million reasons why I choose art that's in the art show. Sometimes it's the size of where it goes, sometimes it's the awesomeness of the piece or the awesomeness of the kid. So one, I think it's exciting for the kids to be able to be like, my art's showcased in a public place where people are seeing it all the time, and it gives them just a little bit more of a motivation for them to be like, I want this to be done, completed, and the craftsmanship good, because it's going to be out. But I think also it shows like the life of a professional artist, like you're trying to get something done to be in a show or to be hung somewhere and presented, where instead of like, oh, we're just doing this to be put in a pile or put it on the fridge at mom's house, which is also a great piece for art, but it's nice to be like we're getting pictures taken with the art, like that's gonna live forever, and when you grow up you have like these awesome pictures and these memories.
And finally, Walpole Media Corporation is seeking candidates for the organization's board of directors. The election is set to be held in September, and the 2-year term begins in October. Anyone interested in running for a board position should email info@walpolemedia.tv to learn more.
That concludes our show this month. More information can be found on our YouTube channel. For Walpole News Today, I'm Jessica Kurgo.
And I'm Pete O'Farrell. We'll see you next time.